Oh, there you are, my young pupil.
Oh, fuck.
Karkat, I'm so excited you came.
I was actually just leaving.
Today I wanted to speak to you.
Fuck me.
I mean speak with you in an open dialogue about a plethora of relevant social issues faced both by trolls and humans.
Kankri, I really...
As well as by Trollian consorts, human-sprite hybrids, animal-aligning humans, human-identifying trolls, sentient 𝗁𝗶𝗸𝗆 AI, and cherubs.
Do you think that we could do this another time?
Note that while I use AI as a colloquial term, making the assertion that such beings are artificially alive, and therefore implying a lesser value on their experience, can be quite triggering and problematic. Let's try to keep this in mind whilst moving forward. While on the topic of triggers, I will list a few potential trigger warnings for my following monologue. I mean our dialogue. Potential triggers may include, but are not limited to, species dysphoria, cosmic dysmorphia, xenophobia, transphobia, transspecies phobia, sexuality, sensuality, quadrant as well as quadrant vacillation, black rom, red rom, autophilia, autonecrophilia, leprechaun romance, pale filling, imperial drones, aristocratic matriarchies, colonization, biological class oppression, systemic homophobia, systemic racism, non-hermaphroditic gender inequality, identity politics, post-scratch divergence, descendant and Florida complexes before erasure, relevant shame, conical erasure, dying, double dying, dream bubble, disorientation, memory hoarding, memory judgment. This list is actually quite long. Why don't we start our dialogue, and at any point you feel like you might be triggered by a given subject, we can take a momentary intermission in one of our designated safe spaces until any potential distress is alleviated. I'll take that silence as your consent. I wanted to begin our dialogue by examining the complex and controversial art form of troll ASMR, more specifically the Alternian iteration, as it supports problematic ideals that still have deleterious ramifications today. As you know, the art form holds deep roots in Alternian history and is still practiced by many members of the warmer caste. Please avoid the term low bloods as it reinforces ingrained homophobia within the caste divide. To start, the acronym Avoiding Subjugulation by Mustards and Rusts contains two outdated and highly offensive slurs. Despite the cultural significance of this practice, it's important to acknowledge the harmful rhetoric that lies within, lest we contribute to the normalization of these abhorrent epithets. As the name implies, Alternian troll ASMR refers to the ancient practice held in response to the subjugulation of the warmer hues. On Before Us, the social roles of the color caste were designed to help, note my tone of incongruity, those beneath them on the hemo spectrum. But admittedly, this pancotomy was more physically violent on Alternia. Quick tangential point of decontrivance. While the framework for imperialistic biological supremacy on Before Us was technically less physically intemperate, the insidious backbone of cultural hegemony was no less odious in my society than it was in yours. Nevertheless, the story goes that around 3,000 sweeps ago, from your perspective, those in the Alternian purple caste, supported more widely by the pericultural cooler hues, specifically the stratocragic indigos, as well as violet and fuchsia that make up the sea-dwelling aristocracy, continued to impose the social architecture that inequitably subjugated terra-veined individuals through the monstrative practices of subjugulation. I'll note, with particular disapprobation, the cultural impacts that my Alternian iteration had on this movement. As I'm sure you're aware, Karkat, your genetic predecessor and the ectobiological nexus on which our relationship, as well as all other paradoxical, temporal, or spaceless Vantis iterations are conceptually and regrettably derived, is a figure riddled in condemnable, dare I say problematic, reverse hegemonic practices. While I don't claim as deeply reprehensible and ignominious shortcomings as my own, I still feel compelled to reframe the sufferer's narrative towards his cultural impacts that don't involve screaming expletives in a public forum. Also, what type of obnoxious, auto-aggrandizing, self-victimizing egotism do you have to pick a title like The Sufferer? Gee, it must be hard being a social pariah with mutant blood. I wonder what that's like. Pardon my phrasing. In addition to his non-amenable incitations of violence and social upheaval, the cultural practices of troll ASMR are deeply entwined with the doctrine of the sileness in his following, but the core of the practice is said to originate well before his tragic campaign for idolatry. In truth, it's likely something he himself had to do throughout much of his early life. Prior to the imperial drones Amina's taller Alternian self-employed in the latter half of your planetary history, the threat and lethality of the subjugulators was far more a pertinent fear for any thermo-hued, poly-blooded, or hemodivergent Alternians. To stay safe from the constant threat of subjugulation, it was seen critical, nigh crucial, for the subjugated to remain silent and unseen, as those identifying as high bloods, again please avoid this term, rarely hesitated to kill, cull, or club. Personally, I think to choose a path of silence, especially when one is a persecuted individual like myself, is not only irresponsible, but actively harms the spirit of education and wokeness that I have pledged my life and post-life in service to. For if you are not willing to facilitate the conversation, you, my friend, are just as much a contributor to your own serfdom as your so-called oppressors. Nevertheless, I know that not all can be as aspirationally learned as I. That is a privilege I must check. The Scienist, an ever-exploitative opportunist, appropriated this history of strategic cultural silence in his teachings. It said that...
Hello, Kankri. Hello, Karkat.
Oh, hello, Aranea.
What are you two doing?
Just chilling.
Chilling? What were you chilling about?
Not everything has to be about something.
That seems very uncharacteristic of you, Kankri. I thought I heard you say something about the silence. Perhaps I was mistaken?
You were mistaken, and even if you weren't, your preoccupation with my Alternian self is incredibly invasive and unappreciated.
I thought you didn't claim his deeply reprehensible shortcomings.
Fine. If you must know, Karkat and I were merely talking about Alternian ASMR, and to a smaller degree, how our genetic relative, 𝗵𝗵𝗸𝗍, played a role.
I love this topic. I'm sure Kankri's lens has been no doubt illuminating, but why don't I share my slightly less preachy take on the subject?
Aranea, that really won't be...
Oh, please, God, just make him stop talking.
Hey!
You got it. The sufferer adapted the practices of ASMR and instilled them in his teachings. When meeting, his followers faced the threat of not only the subjugulators, but all those under her imperial court. If any high bloods were to find a group of low bloods congregating in secret, well, there's a reason he's called the sufferer.
Aranea, your phrasing and framing is not only problematic for my young disciple to hear...
Hey, is that 𝗵𝗶𝗸𝗏? Hi, 𝗵𝗶𝗏𝗏.
Oh, shit.
As I was saying, in his teachings, he preached the virtues of stealth and unity. Rather than staying silent, the sufferer taught his followers to nurture loud ideas through soft voices. We know of his teachings from the transcriptions of his closest disciple. When the clown or crown rolls into town and 𝗁𝗵𝗍𝗏 start to play, your tongue and voices must be low till the high bloods go away. The modern Alternian practice of ASMR pulls more from the soft-spoken teachings of the sufferer than it does from the older belief of silence or violence. For many trolls, it's a symbol of rebellion, held with comparable reverence to the sufferer's irons or his last sermon. For others, the practice is a symbol of unity among low and mid-bloods that stands independent of the sufferer's teachings. Like many cultural practices carried into the modern era, customs and traditions are often expanded past their original context. For example, before in slam poetry is an ancient art form that originated within the high-blooded noble court. Later, the cultural practice would grow to find wider appeal across the hemo spectrum. Rufio was one of many on my team with a secret proclivity for the craft. Alternian ASMR differs uniquely from this trend. Even after its modernization, the practice was still primarily held by low to mid-bloods, finding much of its popularity in the bronze and gold circles. Before the destruction of Alternia, it was a common practice for many of these trolls to record and upload their ASMR sessions online. While it's a far cry from whispering in a cave, the modern practice of Alternian ASMR is a beautiful testament to tradition and unity.
I think she's gone.
Here you go.
What is this for?
Listening to me. See you around.
Don't leave me here.
Good luck.
Good riddance.
Wait, I think our dream bubbles are separating.
Wait, no, you just got here.
Sorry, Kankri. Maybe next time.
No, wait, Karkat, we have so much left to talk about.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Philly. Well, at least Porum's gone. Fuck.